let's start it off with Thursday. The 7-7 Saints at the 7-7 Rams. A big game. You kind of anticipated both teams bringing their A game, and that just simply wasn't the case as the Rams jump all over the Saints and we're up 30-7. Were you surprised by? I know you picked the Rams, I picked the Saints. Were you surprised by how dominant the Rams were in this game?
I didn't have a good feeling about the Saints going into this one. I was pretty confident the Rams would win. And for
Hmm.
most of the game, the Rams had it in the bag. I mean, and it was weird too, because in a game like that where one team seems so far ahead, you expect there to be a lot of turnovers. And
Yeah.
I mean, there was just that one turnover, which I kind of summoned with my witchcraft, as you call it. Um, Alex and I were texting during this game, and he goes, "Big field goal, keeps it two scores. Saints need a touchdown ASAP." And I said, "No, let's get an interception." And then the next pass was picked off. So it was kind of funny timing. But yeah, it was
Yeah.
a weird game for the Saints. I mean, Olave had a super off night. I've never seen him drop so many passes before.
Yeah, the Saints have been incredibly inconsistent all season long, and I kept trying to believe in them and kept trying to will them to take control of this division, and for whatever reason they can't get it done. I think it mostly points to the coaching staff. I'm not a big Dennis Allen fan, and I think they need a whole new staff over there. But it's you're seeing Chris Olave not playing his best football at times. You're seeing Derek Carr with some inconsistency and some turnovers and credit to the Rams. I wrote down here the game was not as close as the score indicates. Like it was 30-7 and it could have been 40-7. Um and then the Saints get back into it and it's a 30-22 final score, but it easily could have been a 30-point Rams win.
Yeah, I mean, the Rams were firing on all cylinders for most of this one. I mean, Matt Stafford looked great. 24 of 34 pass attempts, 328 yards, two touchdowns. And it's funny because you and I, by nature, being Bears and Packers fan, I mean, we are kind of programmed to hate on Matt Stafford, but he has quietly been a very productive quarterback. I mean, if you go back and look in 2012, Calvin Johnson set the NFL single season record with 1,964 receiving yards. Matt Stafford was throwing to him. 2021, Cooper Kupp, second most, 1,947, Matt Stafford again. And this year, Puka Nacua, who has been insane. I mean, he's my rookie of the year pick. I know CJ Stroud is right up there as well.
Hmm.
But Puka, I mean, 147 more yards in these next two games, and then he will have set the record for most um, by a rookie in NFL history. I mean, Matt Stafford is so good at like getting the ball, and he has his favorite receiver every year. Like it's not like he's spreading the ball around like some of these other receivers, but he's quietly really helping some receivers make historical numbers.
He is, and I mean, he's always been talented, right? And the biggest thing was consistency and protecting the football. And ever
Mhm.
since he's gone to the Rams and teamed up with Sean McVay, who's a much better offensive play caller, offensive system than he ever had in Detroit, you've seen Stafford really take off. And it really, we talk about this with Hugh Jackson and other people about how the situation matters so much to a quarterback. And you think about as much success as Stafford had in Detroit, he's now in a better system, and we're seeing it even more so with the Rams. And he is starting to spread the ball around this year more than any year.
Mhm.
Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, like you mentioned, and the addition of Demarcus Robinson has been big as well. He's getting him involved, and he's got like four straight games with a touchdown, I believe. So that's all those things combining along with the return of Kyron Williams, who's been huge as well. The Rams are hitting on all cylinders right now, and if they can get into the playoffs as a 6 or 7 seed, they're going to be dangerous for whoever they meet.
Yeah, I mean, their offense has so many weapons on it. Kyron Williams, I was really excited to see going into this game. I mean, 22 carries, 104 yards, plus 164 yards from Puka, and then another 82 from Demarcus Robinson. Like, they're
Yeah.
so effective on offense when they're all clicking like that. And I love the storyline this year. I mean, because we've talked a lot of times about, the Goff Stafford trade situation where they both seem to be playing better for their new team. Like Goff is doing great with Dan Campbell's system. We're seeing the Lions be more effective and, winning more games than we're used to seeing them do, like looking at postseason spots. And then, the Rams, Matt Stafford's been a great fit there. And I'm loving the storyline where they potentially meet up in the postseason.
Yeah, that would be a great matchup. And so, what needs to happen for that, the Lions need to continue to finish strong. They've got 2 games against the Vikings and a game at the Cowboys, sandwiched in the middle of that. They have to take care of business in that division and win at least one, if not both of those Vikings games. So, they play what on Sunday in Minnesota. All eyes are going to be on that matchup, right? That's prove it time. Denver was a big bounce back game for Detroit, and they hit on all cylinders in a statement win. Lions Vikings in Minnesota on Sunday. That's a huge. Are you the same old Lions, or are you ready to do what you have to do to win this division? Because if they lose out and the Vikings win out, the Vikings can still steal that division. It needs to be a lose out, win out scenario with 3 games left. That's going to be really interesting.
And we know about those divisional games. I mean, at sometimes late in the season, even if the other team doesn't have a playoff shot, they're just in it to ruin it. Like they just want to wreck the season. Like the Bears have come in trying to wreck the Packers season multiple years in the past decade. I mean, we've seen it happen where they're just like, oh, if we're not going to the postseason, neither are you, honey.
Yeah,
But I mean, I'm concerned a little bit. So I have been a big fan of the Lions this season. I think the Lions should be able to win both of the games against the Vikings. I'm concerned they're going to be looking past the Vikings at the Cowboys because that
yeah,
Detroit at Dallas matchup on the 30th is going to be insane. Right now they're both 10-4. I expect that to be a great game.
absolutely. And let's say the Lions do make the playoffs. They finish with the 3 seed. They win the NFC North, and they host a playoff game for the first time since the early '90s. And the Rams get in as a 6 seed. I mean, tell me how you are feeling about that 3-6 matchup, Rams at Lions. I'm not a big guy that usually picks the Rams, but if that's a matchup in the playoffs, man, give me Stafford and the Rams in Detroit. That would be a hell of a game, though.
Yeah, I think I would have to lean with the Rams there too, because you and I have had our issues with Detroit and their turnovers on downs. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot be that risky and leave points on the board and not take the field goal 3, 4 times a game and then beat the Rams. It's just not going to happen.
Yep. And we'll see if the Rams, I mean, right now they're 8-7, a lot of positive momentum. Can they finish strong? And what happens with Seattle? Seattle is a half a game back right now. That win over the Eagles on Monday night was huge for the Seahawks. It ended their 4-game losing streak. It got them back to 500. For the Rams, their last 2 games are at the Giants, at the Niners. They should be able to win in New York against the Giants. But at the Niners, they're a really tough one in Week 18, so they could go 1-1 there. For Seattle, I think their schedule is a little bit easier here. At the Titans versus the Steelers, at the Cardinals. If the Seahawks win out and the Rams lose to the Niners, it'll be the Seahawks that get into the playoffs with a 1-game lead over the Rams.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
It's getting cozy.
yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun here towards the end, but a statement win for the Rams, big win, keeps the pressure on Seattle. Seahawks at Titans, that's going to be a tough game. We'll see if Seattle can take care of business there.
Yeah,
Um,
Seattle's been very kind of hot and cold. I
yeah,
I don't know how to feel about them week to week. Like beating the Eagles when Jalen Hurts has the flu, like that's fine. Like I'll allow that. Like I'm not gonna say anything super negative about the Eagles in that game, but we've seen the Eagles kind of falling apart a little bit.
yeah,
Um, and I mean Seattle definitely showed up. I thought that would be a good bounce back game for the Eagles if he wasn't sick, but I mean Seattle was not messing around.
yeah. And Drew Lock, right, was the story coming out of that game with a clutch touchdown drive. And now here comes Geno Smith back healthy for Sunday at the Titans. So, going to be interesting for sure. We'll see how Geno plays off that injury.
Yeah,
But
it was interesting to see Drew Lock playing well and winning, and how much passion and
yeah,
little bit of cockiness was showing up there. it was a lot of personality I wasn't expecting out of him.
I love that his post game interview was a lot of humility too, though, and it was like, you know, he credited all of his teammates, in every phase, and talked about how he's going to remember that play call on that touchdown pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba for the rest of his life, and how he was
But
so grateful to get another opportunity in this league.
yeah, when I say cockiness, I don't mean like personal, like I won this. I mean like he was fired up about the team win. Like he was winning is so important to him and you can see it. And we've never really gotten to see that side of him because he's, hasn't done a lot of winning. So him winning an important matchup like that, especially like, against one of the best teams in the NFL this season, it was a very different side of his personality. And, it's interesting to see what he can do with that. Because I mean, he clearly has some talent.
Yeah, you love that internal swag, that internal confidence, right? And switching gears here, we'll talk about Saturday. And remember a week ago on Saturday, Jake Browning and his comments, after he pulls off that win against the Vikings in overtime, and he's yelling into the camera, "You guys should have never fucking cut me." We love that, right? And you have to kind of have that internal swag and cockiness to be successful in this league, right?
Yeah, and it's one of those things in that matchup. Like he he took that personally. Like he wanted to play for the Vikings. Like he was excited to be there, and then they cut him. Like you come in, and I love to see not really a pissed off player, but like somebody with some passion. Give me some
Mm-hmm.
hurt feelings. Like give me Kirk Cousins. You like that? Like I love those sound bites of players just feeling their win and getting fired up. It just makes football so fun.